Hi, I'm Kara, life coach, wife, and mom to 4 incredible and unique children. It wasn't all that long ago that my son received a diagnosis that had my world come crashing down. I lacked the ability to see past the circumstances, which felt impossible, and the dreams I once had for my life and family felt destroyed. Fast forward past many years of surviving and not at all thriving, and you'll see a mom who trusts that she can handle anything that comes her way and has access to the power and confidence that once felt so lacking. I created the Special Needs Mom podcast to create connection and community with moms who find themselves feeling trapped and with no one who really understands. My intention is to spark the flare of possibility in your own life and rekindle your ability to dream. This isn't a podcast about your special needs child. This is a podcast about you. If you are a mom who feels anxious, alone, or stuck, then you are in the right place. Welcome. Welcome to the Special Needs Mom podcast community huddle for December. So I'm going to give a little context of what this conversation is for those of you maybe just finding the podcast. It's been a monthly call. Well, my intention has been doing it monthly, and I think I'm on my 3rd month in a row. So you know what? I'm going to pat myself on the back because that is, not as easy as one might think. So it's essentially a community call. It's where we get to actually be together. It's where, rather than me speaking at you through the podcast, it is me getting to speak with you. And I love that. And so this call is open to any listener. All you have to do is get on the old email list that is available via the show notes. So you're all welcome. We'll love to see you in January. I send 1 or 2 emails. It depends on how organized I am about signing up. So that's what we're doing today. And the theme of the call, or I guess the guided conversation, is going to be centered around how to find calm during a chaotic season. So we're going to talk about that today. And we're going to start with introductions so that all of you listening can have a little context for who you're listening to as we each share our unique perspectives and experience and victories and challenges. So I will start with an introduction. And my name's Kara. I'm the host of the Special Needs Mom podcast. I have 4 children aged, 7 to 17, 3 boys and a little girl. I'm talking to y'all from San Diego, California. And just a couple of words to describe my child's disability. He's my 15-year-old. He has hemiplegia, a handful of hormone conditions, and another big handful of brain-based disabilities, as he is a survivor of multiple brain tumors. So that is just a snapshot of who I am and where I'm coming from. I will call on y'all to introduce yourselves. Okie dokie. So, Anika, will you go first?
Sure. My name is Anika Atkins. I have 1 child who is 10 and a half, my daughter Ella. I live in Dana Point, California, more specifically Capistrano Beach. And Ella is diagnosed with infantile Pompe disease and was diagnosed at 2.5 months of age.
Thank you for being here. Alyssa.
All right. My name is Alyssa Meyerhofer. I live in Minnesota with my husband, Adam. He farms. I work as a nurse. I have 3 kiddos. I have a 1st grader, preschooler, and Gabby is 2. And Gabby has trisomy 9P. Very rare. So we're kind of in that rare community, which this online support is a huge benefit to us.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for being here. Angela.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Angela O'Brien. I live in Dallas, Texas, and I have 2 adult-ish kids. My oldest is 23 and is out of the house working. Hallelujah. And my second is my daughter. She just turned 21. We celebrated her 21st birthday, and she has Down syndrome.
Lisa, would you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I am Lisa. I have 2 daughters who are young adults now in their 20s, and my younger one has intellectual disability, cerebral palsy, and very well-controlled epilepsy. I am the host of another podcast called Love Doesn't Pay the Bills, all about caregiving. I'm in Oregon.
Well, thank you so much, and nice to have you here, Lisa. We have a lovely range of ages. We go, from 2 to 20s. So I love that we have a spectrum of ages and, of course, a huge spectrum of disabilities. So let's talk about our experience as moms. And, I think it's important to acknowledge if we did not have children with disabilities, we would probably still be able to have a very meaningful conversation around handling the chaos during the season. I mean, I think that's just, I was talking to a friend and that was kind of the theme of the thing. It's like there's a lot going on. There's a lot added, a lot that we want to be added, and then some things we don't want to be added. Like I'm thinking of not having the support of school. I don't think a lot of us want that to be added necessarily, or I guess taken away. But as with many things, I think there's the added complexity that we hold as moms. And so I wanted to start the conversation about what for each of you, and of course, only share if you feel led, you don't have to speak, kind of add to or contribute to making this season or this month feel chaotic for you.
I can go. This is Anika again. For me, as I look at this time of year, it comes many times with sort of a medical emergency. In the last 3 years, that has been a component to my holiday. And I'm sure there's other people listening that understand that. And so there is an anxiety that sort of starts to form around the holiday that is different than I would imagine other people carry. But I am determined this holiday to not lead with that, if that makes sense.
Tell me more about that. What do you mean by that?
Well, so I've worked through not revisiting sort of, okay, last Christmas we were in the hospital, or 2 Christmases ago, we missed Ella's birthday is also in December. So we missed birthday, we missed Christmas because we were ill. I'm going to look at this as we're starting anew. I know last year I was anxious and I was like, I don't want to say I was like creating this, but in a way I was like, we're going to be sick, man. I know it's going to happen again. I'm just gearing up for that and push aside family events and just get prepared for that next hurdle. And this year I am working towards, no, it can be a completely different picture. I am much more at peace with whatever comes and letting it be present for the moment and not leading with anxiety. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you so much for clarifying. And it's kind of maybe even jumping ahead. However, I think it's so good to point out the difference and the distinction that you created for yourself. So well done. Good work. It's reminded me of an episode called Doing Hard Things Without Suffering.
Yes, that's exactly what came. That was one of the episodes you did that had a huge impact to my frame of thinking today, because it just spoke to the fact that hard things doesn't mean it has to destroy joy,
Yes, that's
destroy
the
the memories, the magic of what I love about holiday season.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You're not living inside of already suffering that she's going to get sick and be miserable about that. You're really living in that trust that if she gets sick, we'll deal with it. But right now in this moment, she's not. And so really it's like a fight for that joy. And I think it's really, I don't know if those two words go together great, but it's beautiful. So well done. Okay. So kind of back to the original question, it was kind of, what do you experience? What are the specific kind of causes or experiences that you have in kind of chaos in this season? So who else would like to share? Alyssa.
I'll go next. Yeah. So I did the last month huddle, and I knew this when I saw your email. I was like, oh, I'm really, busy this week, especially. And then I saw the title and I was like, oh my God, I have to do this because it's just too fitting, right? So proactively this season, I've done a couple things. So I decorated early for Christmas. I've never been a decorate before Thanksgiving person. And I did mid to early November, which is actually has provided me so much joy, a lot more joy and relaxation. And I don't have the stress that I normally have in December. So pre-thinking about that from last year, that really helped me. So that was a big thing. But then also, so this week, tomorrow, I have my preschoolers Christmas program at 11 in the morning. Tomorrow at 1:30 to 4, we're throwing a birthday party for my first grader at our house.
Oh,
So that's going to be in our shop. So planning ahead, that's also not in our house. It's like
that's good.
in our shop. So thinking ahead a little bit about that. And then my mom's surprise 70th birthday party is tomorrow night at like a restaurant.
Wow.
And there's a looming snow ice storm coming to just
Just
top
to
it off
sprinkle a little
bit.
magic all over the season, you
Yeah. So
know?
like 2 to 4 inches plus maybe a little ice. So that is just kind of like looming over there. But like Anika said, you also get those unexpected things that pop up. So I know last month I talked about, so Gabby with trisomy 9, she's got a lot of like, she has diastasis recti. So her abdomen is not like closed completely. And it's really, I think, affecting like her constipation issues. And so we had cleaned her out last month and we had an x-ray this morning. And we've been on this, we've got poop charts going and all of this stuff. And my husband and I were both like, okay, we're going to get this x-ray done. Just we have an appointment next week. All is going to be fine. I got the x-ray results this morning and she's like full of stool again. And we were not expecting that at all. So that was kind of like, whoa, like just can't believe it. So like, I don't know what that's going to entail, but I'm worrying about that on like Sunday, Monday, Wednesday when we have our appointment. I'm just going to like leave it, but we didn't see that coming. So that was kind of like, I don't know what that's going to entail. But then also because Gabby's in like that early intervention stage, plus we're getting set up on like a waiver. Oh, well, it's not a waiver. It's a Medicaid program that's new in Minnesota. And so just with all of that stuff, we have like 13 appointments in 3 weeks with just her. So that's like, so much, and like learning a new process for that Medicare program. And then I'm actually writing a book and I published it.
I love that. I'm just going to do that on the side. Like,
yeah.
great.
I picked our official like publishing date as March 4th. So that happened this week too. And then also this week, I had coffee with a really special friend who's also going through a lot. And I was anxious when I went and I was like, with all this stuff going on, maybe I shouldn't be going to coffee with this person, like I just, have so much I should be doing. And then I went and the conversation was like so good and so soothing for my soul. And I just felt when I left there, I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like so good right now. And just that like unexpected, like little thing was like such a, kind of relief. Like it really is going to help me go into the weekend.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So I hear for you, I don't want to say busyness, but fullness in terms of like a lot of things on your calendar, which I think happens to a lot of us. A lot of things on your calendar is one of the contributors to chaos. But I also hear that connection is what's making it all matter. So I want to highlight that I think it's sometimes easy to squeeze out the things that matter most to do it all, or there's many reasons we do that. But a good example of why letting go of some of the busy or doing stuff really kind of gets us what we're looking for. So thank you for sharing. All right. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Angela.
I'll go. So yeah, I'm not in the early intervention stage, thankfully. I've been there. I've so been there and I remember it like it was yesterday. So I feel for you, but she's luckily been pretty healthy right now. But one of the things that I have really tried to do the last several years, and part of this is because I started doing professional organizing here in Dallas, and it made me realize how much stuff we all have. And so I have become I have very much a minimalist life view now. And so I let things go. If we don't get Christmas cards out, we don't get Christmas cards out. If she gets sick and we have to change our plans, and I heard this on another podcast, I just lean in. Like we have to go with it. And I think, and I will say, I mean, COVID was horrible. It was so awful going through all of that. But one of the things that I learned from that was letting go of my expectations of what was to come and all the hype around everything. And so like if things have to change and plans have to change, then we just deal with it. And my daughter will say something funny because she doesn't like when plans change. And she'll say, Mom, don't give me bad news. And we try not to, but we're like, well, sometimes, honey, plans change and we just have to go with it, So but we joke to each other, let's not give each other bad news. But if we do, we just have to roll with it. So I've just tried to lean in and let go.
Okay. So for you, what I'm hearing actually is like that you're not currently experiencing a lot of chaos because you've been very effective in minimalizing and also like have practiced this pivot ability. And I think also a lot of reframing where it's like your daughter's saying, don't give me bad news, which means I'm sure that you're like, okay, how do I reframe this to where it's like, I don't know. I think there's probably a more like nice way to say this, but the shit sandwich where it's like that, like this is more of like a corporate thing, right? But like a little bit like that, right? Okay, well, we can't go to this, but whatever. It's all about that reframing. But for us to make that space for our children, we have to be able to reframe it for ourselves first, right? So that's a skill. Or at least anything to add in terms of your experience.
Yeah, so I'm in a position similar with Angela that things are not so chaotic anymore, at least not in terms of the actual experience right now this year. I definitely relate to the conversation about pivoting and what was said earlier about that anticipation that something will go wrong. I think it was Alyssa, that kind of holding your breath feeling and being in the past experiences that were so tough. And I get that really big time around just the fact of winter break happening. And oh my gosh, I am on now for several weeks. Yeah. And I think it's so important to not add, it's like when you tell yourself certain things about the feelings you're having, you build on top, on top, on top, on top, these like more and more and more difficult layers. Whereas opposed to if you just have the experience, like back then, if I maybe were better at having the experience, taking the walk and yelling into the woods and whatever you need to do to like go through it right then, it tends to not come up so much anymore. And it tends to not build those layers so that you're more free to handle whatever it is in this moment.
Yeah, definitely. And I appreciate that you brought up what I'm going to nickname here today, winter break woes, because
Yeah.
I think that, well, what I'll say is this last summer for us was a very big, I don't know, I guess wake up call, or it was the kind of experience that I said, we can't do that again. Like that did not work. And so, essentially, winter break is a little miniature summer break, right? Where we have all of a sudden no structure and no support as compared to having kids in school full time. So let's have that lead us into the next question. We've all had varying degrees of success with calming the chaos. We're all still human. We are still living the life. We do become overwhelmed. So the question I want to discuss is first, how do you recognize when you are becoming overwhelmed? And what are your go-to strategies for grounding yourself?
What I am doing this season is I am actually preparing myself with getting acupuncture, doing some things preemptively. I even have a little bag together of some things that I know ground me. So I'll even show you. I have this like little scented spray I spray over myself, and it sounds ridiculous, but for me, it brings a sense of joy in the moment, and I have it. So I have these little tools that work. I love the song Amazing Grace. So I'll put that on. Those little moments and little pieces of joy are really what pull through like those moments. I mean, I even have a little stone I keep in my pocket that kind of reminds me to stay grounded and focused on finding the joy in the moment. Like Elle and I do that a lot. We could be anywhere. She got the flu shot yesterday, and I kind of knew she's had a lot of trauma around medical experiences. And so, she can do a lot of things, but somehow a vaccine, it's like super traumatic. So I'm
You're like, of all the things you've been through, for this
yeah,
to be the challenging thing for you. But yeah, go ahead.
we can knock this out. But so I was sort of trying to walk through that. And so we started to focus on specific things. So she was concentrating, looking at my eyes and knowing my eye color and like touch and feeling things in that moment. And I know that's a common concept in therapy, especially around trauma, but it is true to like find those grounding things. So it's like, is it like sight, sound, smell, touch? I just have my
Taste.
little and
Yeah.
taste. That's the
Yeah.
other one, taste, right? So those are the techniques I take with me. But I was kind of amazed going back to the experience yesterday because it's like my little mini test of getting through a stressful moment that likely be things that we'll experience through the holiday. But we were proud of ourselves. We made it through, like, it was hard. We had tears and a little bit of frustration, but then we kind of laughed about it after the fact. And that's so in visualizing how I want this season to go, that's what I want to focus on in those tough moments. It's like, okay, I can ground myself. And that's where I struggle, being in the moment, because I carry a lot of trauma from the past that I work through with a therapist heavily, but I don't want to take that into the season. That's just not part of my Christmas season.
Yeah. Gosh, I love it. I kind of picture you as you describe this bag that you have, like this actual equipment, right? No. It's like I picture you as a mom preparing, like a pregnant mom that's never given birth. It's got a bag packed, ready to go whenever she needs it, whenever she feels that first ping of labor. But if you think about that kind of preparedness, like the loving, like thoughtfulness that bag was prepared with, and how you've done the same thing for yourself, of like, you literally have equipment, like actual tangible equipment that you have anticipated is going to support you in the moments that you need it. And so
and it's even more like, it's like a ritual and spiritual thing for me. By creating that, to me, it feels like, I believe in the Holy Spirit. So I take with me what he's creating for me to get through those moments. And so another little funny thing is, Ella and I went to CVS and we found these like little bits of Christmas lights. It's our battery pack thing. She really wanted this. And I'm like, of all the things that we could find for the Christmas holiday, that's what she wanted. But the reality of it is, I'm brilliant, because we can take that anywhere. We could be anywhere. We could even be at the doctor's office and pull out our little Christmas lights. Like, honestly, it just felt to me oddly like a spiritual moment, just like, oh, aha, that these are things that we can do to prepare ourselves for whatever comes, and we're going to find joy and laughter and, some tears too, but it all was part of it.
Yeah. Maybe I just had an idea to add to your bag. I'm going to say
it. So
please. A candle, not obviously, perhaps battery charged, because you mentioning the Holy Spirit, I feel like the symbol of a candle, lighting a flame, is often a symbol for the Holy Spirit, right? For you being able to put your candle on to help you connect to the presence of the Holy Spirit in those moments where you need it, the reminder the most. So maybe add a fake candle.
I think that's brilliant, because the flame
bag.
to me is just calming and feels to me as close. Good visual of, that's awesome.
And you can pull that out. I'm like picturing you with it on like the exam table at a doctor's appointment. They walk in, you got your lights on.
I got my lights, I got my spray. I'm just like,
nothing will get me down here.
No. And you know what? I think one of the gifts we have in medical situations, and this is an off topic, but is we as parents can really lead and almost educate the staff. It's like, you can show them that this experience for my child doesn't have to be like anxious, sterile, lacking connection. And we can provide that. I don't know if me bringing out my ritualistic spray is going to they might think I'm a little nutty, but
they're going to probably want to grab it from your hands and spray it all over themselves.
Yeah.
They're going to probably need some calm.
What is that smell?
Okay, thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so let's see. What are we even answering? We're talking about when we get overwhelmed, how do we recognize it? And what are our go-to strategies for grounding ourselves? So who else has something that they would like to add?
And so ways that I recognize it is I carry a lot of stress in my jaw.
Mm-hmm.
So I can just feel it, like, if I'm stressed out, it'll get really tight. And that's how one of the main signs that I know that I'm really stressed out. I actually went to, I don't know if anybody follows Finding Cooper's Voice. More Than a Project is her nonprofit. And I went to the retreat and I did a yoga class that they had. And one of the things that they suggested was putting your tongue and going around your teeth. So like this, and just kind of moving it over your teeth and keep doing it. And that helps. It's really interesting how it helps you. I'll do it at night sometimes on my way to bed, I'm going to bed. So I think that is one thing that I can kind of do in the moment. But then also I to just feel anxious in general, in my chest, or just overall, you can just tell that I'm anxious. Things that I have done more recently include writing things, right? If I want to do something, like writing it on my calendar, because I feel like we're so busy right now. Like tomorrow I have make Christmas cookies. Okay, this is my plan. So I don't try not to like plan other things that I know that's going to take like an afternoon or something. Or like wrap gifts. I had that on my calendar a few times this month where it was like, okay, so I'm dedicating some time to that. So I think that really helped me. I think I've mentioned before, I use like a gratitude journal and then like a devotional, which I think is really helpful, like just to set my morning. Like I do that without like before I get up in the morning with my kids. I think that helps me be a better mom. Napping. I love naps every day if I can, when I don't work. So that's one of my main things. And then also I love to like buy ornament every year, like a meaningful Christmas ornament every year. And I like to put that on my tree and then just like looking at my tree. So like a couple weeks ago when I was like super stressed out about just like everything that was like gonna happen in the next 3 weeks, I just sat in front of my Christmas tree and it's on my landing. So it's not like there's like a couch or anything by it. Just sat on the floor, just kind of hung out there for, 20 minutes. And it just like kind of just like looking at the lights and just sitting there alone just kind of like helped me like calm down a little bit.
Lisa.
Yeah, I love all the focus on your physical senses because that really can be super helpful. For me, it's not so much in the moment. I'm pretty terrible, honestly, at recognizing in the moment. Often it's like I see a reaction from somebody else. That's what clues me in a moment. What I will say is exercise, also a physical thing, but moving my body physically on a regular basis means that those moments happen far less often. I can go a very long period of time without them. If I'm doing that exercise, at least 3 times a week, it doesn't have to be super strenuous. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but like walking outside for a half hour on a regular basis. It's not like I go on the one walk and boom, my attitude necessarily changes so much from when I left the house. But I definitely notice over, a week or 2 weeks, a big difference with physical movement.
Yeah, I want to jump in and add there because in November, I kind of started walking. I have the fortune of living in an area where there's a lot of pretty hills behind my house and with paths and whatnot
Same.
and a gorgeous
Yeah.
view. And probably not as wooded as yours. However, still gorgeous. I get to see the ocean way far off. But I just started walking and I was like, I'm just going to try to walk every day during Thanksgiving week. Then as I approached December, I was like, you know what? I'm going to just keep on walking. I'm going to just try to walk every day. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to make a goal of walking every day in December. And it was really interesting because I told one of my friends here about it. I'm trying to get her to, jump on the bandwagon with me. And then she sent me this app of like step walker or step counter type things. This is a common thing. And what I noticed is like, it was like the competition normally is like kind of fun, right? But I was like, you know what? It triggered my like insufficient, like I'm not doing enough pretty quickly. Cause I found myself like literally walking around a hotel, like trying to get my steps up. And I wasn't necessarily enjoying it. It was not a very good
Not
experience.
about that.
No. And I was like, okay, notice where you lost the joy of this, where you lost the ease. And so I told my friend, I'm like, you do the step counter. I'm not going to be paying attention to that because my commitment to myself was to do this particular walk. It's about a half an hour. So even last night, my son was at an appointment and rather than sit there and watch him or play on my phone, I was like, I'm going to go outside and walk. And I was like, so committed. And so yay, because I actually think to what you just said, Lisa, I think having the regularity has made a big difference. And it's almost like, if we go take out the trash one day, we took out the trash that day. It's not going to, it needs, there's more trash tomorrow, right? Like we have to do that continually because I think the stress that we carry in our lives, it has to get taken out every day, if you will. And that regular maintenance. And I think, Annie, I think you mentioned this earlier, like it's that proactiveness is getting ahead of it. Not that that's going to make everything joyous all the time, but that it makes it so that we then have this margin and this capacity, this sponginess to be able to then really be that resilient force versus kind of have it take us down, which I know we've all been there too. And that's okay. But that's why we're talking about what we have like
Yeah.
from a higher intention kind of place.
Habits
And
over one particular heroic moment.
yeah,
That-
yeah, definitely. Well, okay. So as we wrap up this conversation, I want to have us end with deciding on the intention we want to set for the rest of the season. So we, the five of us, are having this conversation middle of December. It's going to be coming out Christmas Day. So it'll be kind of cool because you guys can listen to it and be like, how did I do? But for those of you listening on Christmas Day, consider that, this is not just for the season, right? This might be for how you complete the rest of that winter break and how setting an intention, even if it's not like life shattering. What Lisa said, it's like not one heroic moment. It's that how are you going to show up for yourself every day? So take a second to think about it if y'all need to, but what would be the intention you have to navigate the holidays? And I'll start. I actually haven't done a lot of reflection on this, but even just during this conversation, kind of thinking about how I'm experiencing the season. And I'm noticing that it takes a little bit of intention for me to stop doing the busy things or the productive things or like work things to go embrace some of the special things about this season. So, my oldest son happens to be having some friends over this afternoon, evening, and he wanted to make cookies, like do decorate cookies. And I was like, how cute is that? And so, said cookies need to be made. And that's one of those things where I can very easily not suffer through it, but like be stressed, have to get it done, not enjoy it. And so the intention for me, I think, not having great words around it, but is just to kind of invite myself into the enjoyment of the season versus I guess we could call it just the stress or the busyness of the season. And so after this call, actually, I'm going to go turn on some Christmas music, and bake cookies all by myself. How great will that be? I've never done this without children. I'm like, this is going to be so
Love it.
clean and organized. No, but yeah, it's like really for me, kind of just summarizing, it's not missing out on the little opportunities I do have. So hopefully that gives you some time to think how each of you or any of you would answer the question for yourself.
This is Annie again. My intention for myself is to find magic. Find magic every day. And what does that mean? I mean, it just means, like the twinkle of the Christmas lights or the smile that a friend that you haven't seen, the hug you get from a relative that was unexpectedly showing up. Just, that's my intention. So I'm just putting it out there and we'll see what comes of that. And then I had one other for my family. So it's different because I did one personally for myself and this would be for my family. And that is my intention for this season is to say something that I appreciate about that person to them, to their face.
I love that. Some of my clients have taken a second to say things to my face just about the impact of our work together. And it has been so meaningful. Anyhow, that's a very side note. Finding magic. I love that. Thank you.
On that last note on the family thing too, and I think you were saying it, I think because of our stresses that we tend to forget, to recognize the other people and that are part of the journey. So for me this season, I'm opening myself up to be more cognizant of that and then making sure that they know that it's meaningful.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I love that. All right, Angela, you were going to share something.
So I had kind of an epiphany last weekend when we were on our birthday trip for my daughter, and I'm in a situation where right now my son is out of the house. He's living out of the house and we don't get to see him that often. We have to go visit him for Christmas because he doesn't have enough time to take off. So we don't have that kind of 2-week break that we used to have when he was in college. And so it's really focused on her. And on this last trip that we took, we really just took our cues from her. We really were just like, well, we could do this or this. And then we're like, well, why don't we ask Casey what she wants to do? And it really added to the fun of it because she was more invested in it. And I want to carry that forward this holiday season because she loves Christmas. She loves Santa. She is so excited for it. She's 21 and she still is just all in, right? And so why not make it about her? And so I really am trying to kind of follow her lead. Like she has a Christmas dance tonight at her school, and we're going to go with friends and, do all that stuff. And it could, there's part of me that's just like, oh, I really would just like to sit on the couch after the long week. But no, we're going to go and enjoy. It is actually a really fun night for her. And so we're going to make it fun. And so I just think I'm trying to really just focus more on, let her lead us in this particular season, especially when she's the only one in our home right now.
And I think that's one of the gifts that some of our children give us, is that, like, the words that come to my mind as you describe that is, your daughter's gift is leading you to joy.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that is who she is, in terms of like, she embraces these things in a way that helps you experience more of it. And how cool is that? So leading us to joy. So I love it. Okay. Alyssa.
So I think my intention is just like finding beauty in the season, especially like with the snow that's going to come this weekend, and just taking things like slow and having like meaningful connections. Connection is I'm an extrovert. So like connection is like a really big thing for me, with people, connecting with people. But also I've learned that I think sometimes when I'm so busy, I just need some alone time, and I just like don't want to talk to anybody, and kind of finding that balance. But also, like, how I mentioned taking it slow. So this year we're doing Christmas Eve with my in-laws, and then Christmas Day we're just going to stay at our house with the kids. And we did that during COVID, and it just made me appreciate how much, like, not being able to do that in the past. It was just like, I really like not even having to get up early and make food and get all these kids, get the kids ready and get out the door and be at this person's house by, such and such time. Like, just taking it slow. The kids can open their gifts, they can play. Like, we'll probably make some food. I have no idea what we're making. Like, it's not going to be anything extravagant by any means, but just really like slow and calm. And then my family always celebrates off the holiday. So my mom was a nurse too. I'm a nurse. So like celebrating on the holiday is not that big of a deal for us. And we don't have to have like a traditional meal. So whoever's hosting, they pick what we're going to make, or what's going to be served. And we kind of go around there. So we're doing that like the weekend closer to New Year's. And so, I think it'll be spaced out a little bit. So it's not so like rush, all these different places. And so like, we're fortunate that we don't have to do that. And so, yeah, we're just going to stay home and just enjoy just us.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Lisa, go ahead.
I can relate to all of it. And my daughter, Angela, is definitely pull me by the hand whether I want to or not, and show me something joyful. And like, especially in December, it is her favorite time of year, hands down. And she's all about it. And she will not let us forget any of it. And often that turns out really great. I think that for me, as far as intentions, it would be to recommit myself to what's already been going on for several years. I am still in a position where I am learning to trust stability and learning to focus outside of the immediate crisis that's happening right now, and this kind of thing, live in that crisis mode. And it's been a long process, and my commitment is to accept whatever I'm feeling and whatever I need. Yeah. Including a lot of quiet time. I'm also an introvert and really appreciate that chance to just be. But that's super important for me. So I think that, it's that commitment to not piling any other kind of guilt or imagining of how I should be feeling or what I should be doing on top of what I do experience and feel.
Obviously we're all in this fight for joy, but I think what you just shared is so critical and important too for that fight. And it's accepting all of the feelings and allowing all of the feelings, and not doing what a lot of us are very tempted to do and probably do out of survival sometimes, which is that suppression and that avoidance. And with all the love and care and compassion in the world, if you've done that, of course you have good reasons for that. And also, this is a conversation where we're saying collectively, like, and let's also allow all of it, in service of that fight for joy, for calm, for peace. So thank you, each of you, for who you are, for what you've contributed to this conversation. And I appreciate the time together. All right. Well, for those of you listening on Christmas Day, Merry Christmas, and we'll see you in the new year.